Today we're talking about the 5 steps to the INFJ exponential learning curve. So if you've looked into a lot of material for INFJs, you might have heard about the INFJ learning curve, which is an exponential learning curve that all INFJs go through. It has everything to do with the way we absorb information, and we have to be aware of that, because if we're not, we're always going to think we're slower than others. We're not going to continue because we fear it's just going to get worse. And the truth is that once you know that it's just an exponential, creation, it's an exponential way of learning things, and that is in conclusion something that will require some time for it to develop. When you know that this is what's going on within you, you can create amazing results because you trust yourself in the process. So today we're breaking down the 5 steps to the INFJ exponential learning curve and how you can apply them in your life. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life formula. And if you want to take it to the next level, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide today. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. The INFJ can create amazing results in their life, but they have to be aware that there is an exponential learning curve. So whatever they try to do, it will have a delay, and it will have a delay in comparison to others. So no matter what we take on, this has to be the thing that we go into. Step 1, observation. So the INFJ has to be aware that no matter what they take on, no matter who they compare themselves with, when it comes to anything new, you probably will have a little bit of a later start. And this has everything to do with the fact we absorb information. So the first thing we have to do is just observe the situation. That means we look at how other people are doing certain things. We look at the information we're having. We're really allowing ourselves to absorb as much as possible. We're really, really good at absorbing information, at creating systems around them. So you need to give yourself some time to get a big picture. And so in a lot of ways, it's about not taking steps immediately, understanding that there has to be a period of just observation, but that it's not based on, oh, I'm afraid to take on the first step, but it's based on, I know there's more. I know that there's more that I need to learn before I can take the first step. Step 2 is looking for patterns. And this applies to absolutely everything in your life as an INFJ. So this could be you're at a new job, you're at a new social circle, you're in a new city, you are taking on a new endeavor. It's really about understanding patterns that are working, and they're working holistically. So what a lot of INFJs have to keep in mind, though, is that this is always just a step. Never ever get stuck in the place where you're trying to find patterns and they cannot be found. So this is a typical example of an INFJ having a relationship with somebody and it's not going anywhere. And we're trying to figure it out. And the thing is, we don't have any more information. We don't get anything new. We try to understand something better. But the truth is that we pick up on patterns really quickly. So this could maybe take days. This could take, minutes, it could take weeks, but in comparison, we pick up on patterns rather quickly. Keep that in mind, we're really looking for patterns. So if another person, for example, learns that 2 times 2 is 4, the INFJ is not going to learn that by heart. They are going to understand, okay, how does multiplication work? I need to understand 2 times 3, 2 times 5, however that whole system works. So when I get confronted with information that is what's 2 times 6, I know the rules that I have to apply there. When another person may be just learning, okay, 2 times 2 is 4, and I remember that. And this is, of course, a very simple example, but it's something that applies to everything. So, in those relationship situations, for example, the INFJ so often is looking for patterns that are not there anymore. We have everything that we can pick up, and there's some kind of mistake in the system. Then it's on us to say, okay, I need to change my approach. Because yes, there is always a better way of understanding something and to creating some kind of pattern. But always think of it as, if you feel like you can pick up on patterns quickly, you're still in the learning process. if you've gotten to a place where it's like you're really fishing for another pattern, you're fishing for, some kind of understanding, you've probably already have a great image of like 80%, 90%, this is just a random number, but you don't need the last 10%. Like, we as INFJs have to learn to take action. This is one of our biggest challenges as INFJs. We have to learn to understand that having a really good understanding of the pattern so far is enough for us to take the first step. And that's when we get to step number 3, which is trying and failing. So when we have gotten enough information, it's on us to start taking action into any kind of direction that we know. So that might be, you act towards a person in a different way. When you're at a job, you start trying out to establish yourself in a certain department. When it comes to, a new city, you say, okay, I'm going to get started in, this group over here that is all about, the social circle in this town, or, I'm going to start writing a book. Well, I'm going to, focus on this first. Like, there has to be some kind of step. Even if you already know it's not going to be the correct one, it's more important for us to take a step that we know is wrong than to not take a step at all. Because through that step, you will get new information into your system. There is no other way. Like, if you're not putting yourself in a new environment, if you're not saying anything or interacting with your environment so you get a feedback, there's no way for you to pick up new information, which then you can turn into new pattern recognitions and, create a new system around it. So no matter what you do, you have to start taking action and knowing that it's going to suck in the beginning, right? This is one of our biggest hurdles, because we think like, okay, if I start taking action and it's short than what I would hope for or who I, would hope I could be, then it's, a feedback of I'm not good enough. I'm not the person that I hoped I was. But the truth is that you are that person by taking that step. So when you know that it's not a question of, oh, whatever I'm doing, it might suck. No, know that your first steps, and no matter what you take on, are going to suck. It's going to fall way short of anything that you would have hoped for. And if you know this, it's not that big of a deal, because then you can, continue to take those steps. And it really is about like, taking a step, failing, and so you fail forward. It's like failing, 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 and therefore you actually, rise very quickly. You understand how the system works. You climb that system no matter what that system is. And the goal here is to understand like what is more uniquely you, to understand what is most in alignment with you, so you can keep taking steps towards your authentic self and not like say, okay, this is a system that has always been there and everybody's playing by those games, so therefore I'm just going to, play by those rules. A lot of INFJs have tried this, like most INFJs that I've talked to. And then we understand, yeah, I can play that game because I understand the patterns that they're all playing, but it doesn't really give me any joy. And so, this is one of the reasons why we then stay back. But to understand, no, I have to take steps that are out of the ordinary, that are outside of my comfort zone, and knowing that they're going to fall short, not just of my own expectation, but they're probably going to be slower and, smaller than what other people are doing. Because if you have the INFJ exponential learning curve, you can, you know how an exponential learning curve is like that. I don't know if it's mirrored now, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's very flat in the beginning and then it rises very quickly. And if in comparison you have somebody who has a linear growth, then in the beginning they're going to grow faster. You'll see this when you study with somebody else. You see that when an INFJ and another type really start taking on anything, like, from social circles to jobs to whatever it may be. And this, of course, a generalization. Of course, there are people who are way faster at an INFJ in particular and vice versa. But as a group, this is just a pattern that we have to be aware of. We will probably be slower than others in the beginning, and that should not hold you back. And that's actually step 4. A lot of INFJs, even if they've made it this far, they actually stop and they say, well, others are actually so much faster than me. It's like, why should I do this? I'm not good at this. Everybody else is doing so much better. But if you know that this is just part of your process and that, of course you're going to be slower than others, but you're slower than others because this is still relatively new to you. You're still on that flat, phase of your exponential learning curve. It's in that moment that you have to decide to continue, because you stop looking at what everybody's doing left and right, and you're just looking at, are you making progress? And if you're making progress and you learn patterns one way or another, that's just how your brain works, then this will have an exponential result in the future. But it can only play out if you give yourself enough repetition, if you give yourself enough time to really surpass that point where it's then going to be, that steep phase of your learning curve. And that's actually when we get to step number 5, which is you come out on top. Every INFJ who's aware of that exponential learning curve, or who has gotten aware of it, afterwards because they've gone through it, once we allow ourselves, the grace of time and of repetition, and to know that we're not going to be rushed by anybody or anything around us, at the end we come out on top. And this doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be better than somebody else. It's more of, if I continue to take on, what I know is right for me, then I will get to where I want to be. So that doesn't mean that, all the people around you who are also starting to write a book, they're going to write it like faster or slower than you. But it's about like, oh, okay, I committed to this thing because this is my thing. And because I trusted the process, I actually come out on a place where it's not just visible to me, but also to others, to the world. Like, I have actually created something that, is really working to my advantage. And it's not just about like telling others or making others believe or aware of it. It's just a byproduct. It just happens. You won't care about it because you have already proven to yourself that it works. It's this feeling of overcoming. It's this feeling of, I'm doing the work when nobody's expecting anything, because I'm doing the work when the curve is still so flat. It's that trust that will be the reward, once you've gotten through it, that oh, okay, I know this is how my system works. I know that I've made it happen. And I'm proud of myself for all that trust that I had in my steps and in my learning curve and in the way my mind works. So once you've done this a couple of times, there's such a confidence that comes out of it, because then okay, I know that this is how it works. You get more and more confident when you see people left and right, maybe, having a head start. You're not looking at them, you're looking at your own path. You're not comparing yourself to others. You just know that's the next right step for me. And this exponential learning curve is an incredible gift, and we should take advantage of it. But we can only take advantage of it if we really go long enough. If we only take a couple of steps and look left and right and compare ourselves, we will always, stop, because we just won't see the results yet. Remember, if you want some more guidelines how to get that process started, how to create that INFJ Epic Life on your terms, then get the free poster on the INFJ Epic Life formula. And if you want to take it to the next level, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide. Everything you need to know you can find in the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then watch the video on the exceptional learning curve of the INFJ.